Hey everyone, we have a game from the FIDE World Rapid Chess Championship in 2023. We have Ivan Cheparinov with the white pieces against Richard Rapport. Probably one of the best sacrificing games you will ever see, and definitely one of the best games this entire tournament. So let's get right to it. We have a Caro-Kann on board, d3, queen c7, knight c3, takes back with the pawn, knight d7. All right, a4. Potentially dissuading black from castling queenside in the future. Knight f6, bishop c4, the bishop is hit and is tucked away on b3. Okay, bishop pinning the knight to the queen, it's asked a question, takes out the knight, recaptured e6, opening the door for this bishop to develop. All right, bishop g5, not pinning the knight, but putting some pressure on it. Knight d7 defends the knight, castles. Okay, bishop does indeed develop to d6. Rook d1, putting some pressure on this bishop, making sure the queen doesn't do anything silly. All right, h6 played. I'd just like to point out that in this position, the computer prefers just castling queenside, getting the king to safety. But instead, h6 played, bishop retreats, and again here, just castle. Kingside castle this time. Get the king to safety. Richard Rapport says, I don't even know what that word means. Plays g5, getting ready to attack. Setting up this pawn storm and just going after white's throat here. All right, rook e1 played by white. The best move in this position, believe it or not, is to just play a5, but you can't argue with white lining up his rook against the enemy king. All right, rook g8 played by black, just following through on this pawn push here. Bishop d4, putting pressure on this knight. It's attacked twice, defended only once. Richard Rapport defends the knight with the rook laterally, and that's a blunder. The computer in this position prefers g4. You played g5, you defended it with the rook, just get on with it and attack the queen. The point is that once it's recaptured with the pawn, which would have been the best move for white, you recapture with the knight, and this is good for black. You have maybe some checkmating ideas. Black's rook is lined up against the enemy king. But instead of g4 here, okay, rook g6. And that's a blunder because of this move, e5. And it's not because you're forking both these pieces. It can just be recaptured, or taken, I should say, with the knight. It's hit twice, but it's defended twice. The point is that once the queen sidesteps, now it's hit 3 times. And if you're moving the knight away, this bishop has all sorts of nasty sacrificing ideas. And the computer says this is completely busted for black. You just add more fuel to the fire here. So e5 would have been the best move, but Cheparinov doesn't spot it. He plays queen e2 instead. Maybe setting up e5 on the next move, but black shuts the door on that, plays bishop e5 himself. And this next move by Cheparinov, knight d5. What even is that move? You're not even taking anything. It's just a clean sacrifice of the knight. What for? Okay, Richard Rapport says, all right, show me. Takes the knight, is recaptured with the pawn, and this is the point. You're opening up the e-file, and look at these heavy pieces, 14 points of material lined up against the enemy king. You have this bishop that's in play, and this is about an equal position. Richard Rapport takes this bishop, and instead of just lazily recapturing with the rook, which would have been losing for white because of this move e5, and this e-file that you've prepared to open up isn't opening up any longer. So instead of recapturing the bishop, white plays the best move here, takes the pawn on e6, and now this file is getting ripped open one way or another. In this position, the computer likes black to play knight c5. And yeah, just defending this knight and parting ways with the bishop. The point is that once the bishop is recaptured, you can take the pawn, and the knight, again, defends the pawn. Of course, it's attacked 3 times, but you're basically forcing the bishop to take first, and once the dust settles, this is an equal position. But instead of moving the knight to c5, black, seeing that this bishop is hanging, says, I want to get something for it. Goes in for this desperado sacrifice on f2, taking the pawn, but it's not working. It's not working. The queen just recaptures. Now black plays knight c5, but it's too little too late. The pawn takes here on f7 with check, defended by the bishop. Actually, it's double check, so the king must move, and does. White plays the best move here. Queen f5, hitting the rook. It's defended. And white plays a brilliant move in this position. Rook e8. What is the point of this move? It can be recaptured in 2 different ways. Black chooses to recapture or take the rook with his own rook. And can you spot Cheparinov's next move here? The only winning move in this position? Yeah. It's a queen sacrifice on f6, taking out the knight. And in this position, Richard Rapport resigned. He resigned. Because any way you recapture the queen, I'm promoting. And not to a queen, I'm under-promoting to a knight. And look at that family fork. Beautiful. And I'm just a clean bishop up in this endgame. If the king takes the queen instead, same thing. It's just a fork. And still a bishop up in this endgame. But let's rewind here. So it can be taken 2 different ways. What would have happened if the knight took instead? Well, you don't take the knight, because that would be losing for white. Instead, you push forward and promote to a queen. King h7, only move, and that's mate. That's mate. The queen is defended by the bishop. You cannot take the queen with the rook because it's pinned. It's pinned. So any which way you recapture, you're still busted. What a brilliant game by Cheparinov. Just starting with this knight d5 move, sacrificing the knight to open lines to the enemy king. Of course, this desperado sacrifice was a mistake by Richard Rapport. He should have, again, played knight c5 instead and parted ways with this bishop. But nonetheless, after this queen f5 move and rook e8, finishing off with this beautiful queen sacrifice on f6 to end the game. Yeah, just simply one of the best sacrificing games that I've seen in a long time.